You know that feeling when your computer, with all its friendly icons and simple windows, just seems to be secretly working against you? Well, according to one systems thinker, you might be onto something. We're going to dive into this really interesting article today that argues the very tools designed to help us have actually become part of something he calls the Great Abstraction Robbery. So this quote right here from William L. Weaver really gets to the heart of it. The GUI always felt like a velvet curtain. As the decades rolled on, that abstraction began to feel more like a prison cell. I mean, wow. What he's saying is that the graphical user interface, the thing that lets us click on icons instead of typing code, it started out as this helpful, elegant curtain, hiding all the messy stuff. But over time, it's turned into a cage.
Okay, so let's be clear on what we're talking about with GUI abstraction. It's basically the magic trick that makes computers easy to use. It's the reason you can just click a pretty icon instead of having to type out, lines and lines of complicated code. And look, this is what made computers usable for everyone. But the big question Weaver is asking here is, what's the hidden cost of all that simplicity?
Right, so this first section is all about that journey. The velvet curtain, the promise versus the prison. The whole idea, the initial promise was about empowerment, right? The GUI was supposed to hand you the keys, give you more control. But as Weaver sees it, that promise slowly kind of soured. It turned into a system of control, and that beautiful velvet curtain started to feel a lot more like iron bars. And look, this isn't just some random hot take. William L. Weaver has been in the trenches for 30 years at the Sensors and Advanced Instrumentation Laboratory. He's been building high-tech gear and watching this whole thing happen in real time. He saw the original promise of computing just rot from the inside out. He talks about this agentic promise, which is a fancy way of saying the dream of having a computer that's truly your agent, your assistant, working for you and anticipating what you need. And he watched that dream just fade away.
So you gotta ask, how did we even get to this point? Well, Weaver's theory is that it happened through a series of what he calls double agents. These are tools that were disguised as help, but in reality, they were secretly serving a corporate empire.
Okay, let's take a little walk down memory lane. It starts back in the 90s with, Clippy. Remember him? He seemed all helpful and friendly, but really, his main job was to make sure you never, ever left Microsoft's little world. Then, in the 2000s, we got Internet Explorer. It wasn't just a window to the web. It was more like a gatekeeper, deciding which parts of the internet you were allowed to visit. And then fast forward to the 2010s with Cortana. Sold to us as this super helpful voice assistant, but Weaver argues it was basically just a data mining sensor in disguise.
And this chart just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? The agentic promise versus the reality. On one side, you have the dream, an assistant that understands what you want, helps you manage your life, and empowers you. And on the other side, the reality. Instead of understanding you, it keeps you locked in a proprietary format. Instead of helping you, it mines your data for a corporation. And instead of empowering you, it just keeps those cage doors locked tight. It all comes down to the business model, right? Control the experience, control the data. And according to Weaver, this game plan is absolutely still in effect today. Think about it. Absorbing GitHub, the very heart of the open source world. Using platforms like LinkedIn to spread what's known as FUD. That's fear, uncertainty, and doubt about new technologies. Pushing this anti-AI story to protect their old software. He argues that the big fear isn't that AI is going to take over the world. No, the real fear for them is a true AI, one that lives right there on your machine and works only for you. That is a massive threat to a business model built on control.
But it's not all doom and gloom. This is where the story takes a turn. It becomes a kind of modern liberation story, a hero's journey. Weaver walks us through this amazing case study where he literally decides to fight back and rescue a brand new, powerful PC from its digital prison. So, let me introduce you to the hero of our story, or maybe the damsel in distress. This is a Dell Inspiron 3030, a powerhouse with an Intel Core i7. Weaver nicknames her Daphne 3030. I mean, this thing is a beauty, an absolute beast of a machine. But right out of the box, it was, as he puts it, a hostage. It was trapped in this digital labyrinth of glitches and pop-ups and corporate bloatware. He said it felt like trying to drive a Ferrari through a swamp. And these hostage symptoms, they're going to sound painfully familiar, right? The USB speakers would just randomly vanish. A so-called upgrade would completely disable one of his monitors. And of course, the constant, non-stop pop-ups from McAfee trial software he never asked for, plus nagging demands for mandatory reboots. It's just maddening. This incredible machine wasn't working for him. It was actively fighting him every step of the way.
So here's the rescue mission, but this time the escape plan was totally different. Instead of spending days, scrolling through endless online forums looking for answers, Weaver called in a trusted agent, Google's Gemini. He used a real AI as his sidekick. This AI helped him perform the surgery, navigating tricky stuff like secure boot, fixing monitor color issues, diagnosing USB problems, and then it guided him through the final step, wiping the entire drive clean of all that junk and installing a fresh open-source operating system, Debian 13 Linux, an OS built by a community, not a corporation.
And this is the kicker. The whole thing, from diagnosing all those annoying problems to a fully liberated, optimized machine, took less than 1 hour. Let that sink in. A job that in the past would have been this horrible, multi-day ordeal was done. Solved. All because he had an AI that was actually working for him, not against him.
Okay, so this whole rescue mission, it's more than just a cool tech support story. It's really a preview of a huge choice that we are all facing right now about the future of our computers and our relationship with AI.
And Weaver boils this entire complex issue down to one single question for all of us. Do we want an assistant that lives in a corporate cloud, always tied back to its corporate overlords? Or do we want what he calls the independent variable, an AI that works for us?
This really is the fork in the road, isn't it? On one side, you have the Empire's AI. It lives in their cloud, it reports back to them, and you pay a subscription for the privilege. On the other side, you have the independent AI. It lives on your own machine, your own silicon. It works for you, the researcher, not for some shareholder. It's a tool for true, genuine user control. And Weaver's story ends on this really powerful, optimistic note. In a quiet home office, the rebellion is already winning. What he's saying is, this isn't some far-off fantasy. With the right tools, right now, the rebellion against that digital prison is already happening, one liberated computer at a time. So the question he leaves us with, and the question I'll leave you with, is, which future are you going to choose?